So it says, my name's Paul Hewitt. I'm an application specialist. I look after, amongst other products, the BIM 360 products or services that Autodesk provide. And today we're going to have a look at two of those products, the BIM 360 team, and together with that, the collaboration for Revit. So if you're Revit users, then you can use collaboration for Revit alongside BIM 360 team. If you subscribe to collaboration for Revit, or C4R as most people call it now, you do get a license of BIM 360 team as well. And you'll see the link between the two as we go through this webinar. So what are the reasons for having something like a BIM 360 team? Well, as you're probably all aware, information is being shared around a wider group, and this image here sort of shows that it may well be information that's spread across the world, but even if you've actually got an office that generally works in a local area, you're still actually sharing that information with other people, mainly outside of your organization, and in the past this has caused problems because of tying down your network, making it secure doesn't really help with being able to easily share documentation. So at the moment we're actually using a number of collaboration tools. We may not think of them as collaboration tools, but we're using these tools to collaborate our design intent, our project information. And you're probably using at least one, maybe two, maybe all of these that I've got on this screen. This is just a selection of ways we can share data. All of these obviously have their problems, problems that we're that may well be small, or there may be larger problems as we go through, and you can see some of those on the screen at the moment. So if you look at something like emailing, when you're emailing documentation, you're actually spreading the information out, but in individual files. So we don't really know, are we working with the latest release? Who do we send that information to? It's quite difficult to actually get that tied down. There's things like SharePoint. SharePoint I've found is quite an expensive way of working, but it's also complex as well, and it can be quite difficult to find and track information. A lot of us are probably using network drives. We're actually storing our information internally on a network drive. This in itself has a number of problems. It can be quite expensive. I've had a number of companies talk to me just recently where their network drives are coming to the end of life. They're too small, they're too cumbersome. The backing up of that information is difficult to do. And also, if we're actually storing information on our network drive and we want to share that information, it can be an IT nightmare. We want to tie that intellectual property down so nobody can actually hack into that. So how do we open up a port and let someone else in? So that can cause problems in itself. And then there are also other share things, something like a box or Dropbox. They're great for sharing information, but there's no viewers, or very few viewers available for a design process. They're not built for a design process. So if we're actually sharing information via that, people are having to download, then upload back up again, and that in itself can cause a few problems. So you see the actual pain points that we're actually all are getting at the moment: miscommunication, loss of information. There are delays because somebody didn't receive an email because the attachment was too large. They didn't get access to the Dropbox, and so on and so forth. So this is where we can actually use the BIM 360 team to actually help us with that information. So cloud sharing with the team product basically opens it up for multiple firms, so we can have concurrent authoring from multiple firms. This doesn't necessarily just mean firms, it may well be the same firm but with different offices, and everybody gets easy access to that information. So we're looking at no IT setup requirements at all. As long as you've got access to the internet and you've got an internet browser, you can actually get and see that information. In fact, you don't even have to have Revit installed on your system or any other package. We can view the information on the cloud really easily. We've also got the ability to get direct access to other cloud services. You may well be using some of these already. One of the simplest ones is rendering in the cloud, where you actually use the power of a render farm in the cloud as such. And basically what we're doing is we're actually putting that information up into the cloud. It then does the render, tells us it's ready, and brings that down. We can bring that down for us. Now, it's very quick for the rendering, but we're always putting the information back up into the cloud. Now, if it's already there inside the BIM 360 team, we don't need to worry about that information having to be uploaded each time. It's there already for us. So team in itself, it answers a lot of those questions that we had and problems we had before. You can see a few of the things around the outside here, what this will actually give us. What we're looking at the very middle of the screen here is an actual view. This is a viewer, so we've not downloaded any files here, we're actually viewing it in the cloud. This in itself allows us to give access to people who don't generally use CAD but need to see that information. So the highlights that we're going to have a look at today, team makes it project centric. In other words, you actually have all the information in the cloud for that particular project. And I'm not just talking of design files such as Revit or AutoCAD or SketchUp or any other product. You could be looking at Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, PDFs. All that information that's needed by the whole team can be stored within the cloud to give easy access to that. We can get things like a live review. I'll give you an example of live review a bit later on, and that means you can actually get teams to actually work together at the same time within the cloud to review a documentation, review a model, and comment on that as you go through, and we'll have a look at that as we go through. Now the real sway for this over Dropbox and something like Box is the actual viewers. There are something like 120 different 2D and 3D viewing capabilities inside the product. So no matter what product you actually find you're using or your contractors are using, the viewer will be there, and you can actually view that within the cloud. We can also mark up. It's quite nice to actually view the information, but if we had to actually then create an email and try and describe what we're talking about, it can be quite difficult. But if you actually put a nice cloud around the object, put a little note, it's a lot easier for somebody to actually see that information that you're actually working with. As I said before, we can actually view this in multiple formats. So not only can we view every Autodesk file format, we can view file formats from just about any other product there is on the market. This is a really nice one. This is the ability to use any device. Before, when you've purchased a product, or it was, well, I use a Mac. Oh dear, well, we can't use that, so we have to, multiple products on the to view objects, no matter where it was created. We can actually view this on any product. Again, as I said, as long as it's got internet access at some point in time, then we can view the information live. If we've got something like an iPad, you can actually download the information. We can view that on the iPad on site. We can mark it up, and then we can synchronize that information whenever we want. We can even use smartphones as well. Again, as long as you've got internet access, at some point in time, you can get access to the information stored in the cloud. So we're moving on to more of the a C4R, the collaboration for Revit. We've actually got a communicator. The communicator itself is a tool very similar to Skype for Business, but it allows us to do a number of things. We can do direct chat with people who are in the project. We could do a team chat, so we can actually put information up, put a comment up that we know at some point in time the whole team will see. We can also do things like screenshots or add images as well. So that's really nice and quick. And again, we'll see that as we go through. It also gives us contextual awareness. In other words, we can see who's been working, who's been synchronizing the information. In that image there, you can see that somebody's actually synchronizing at that point. So it's a live activity report, I suppose, of how the project is moving on. And again, you can see who's actually who's online. Again, you can you can do direct chats with these people within this communicator. Okay, so that's enough of the PowerPoints for now. What I'm going to do here now is just switch to BIM 360 team. So here all I've got is an internet browser. It doesn't matter which one you want to use, Firefox, Chrome or Internet Explorer, Edge, whatever you use, you can gain access to your project. Once you've created, you've got your license, you basically get given a hub. That hub will actually allow you then to create multiple projects. So this is my hub. This is the hub name that I've given it. I can rename this to whatever I like. And these are the projects that I've actually created. So they're all owned by myself. I've created these projects and you can see they're owned by me. I've also got an area where you can see projects that are shared with me. In other words, these are projects that are owned by other people and I've been given access. I've either asked for access or I've been given access or invited to these particular projects. So these are the ones shared with me. You'll also see I can actually see all projects at any one time, or I can see pinned projects. So projects that I feel that I need to get to easily, I can pin those up in that area. You'll also see there's an area for archived projects. Now if I archive a project, it still stays there for me to see because I own the project. I can actually see that project. I can't get in and work on that project because, like I say, it's been archived. The choices I have is to restore the project. That gives everyone access to that. And then I have the option to delete the project. Obviously in this case you know, I'd have it backed up locally. I wouldn't delete it without that backup available. Nobody can delete a project. I can't delete these projects unless I've actually archived them, and you can see here this is where I archive a project like so. You'll also see that I've got options here that I can pin the project or unpin it, and I can also get notifications. In this case, anybody adds any information or changes anything to that project, I'll get notified by email. Okay. Now the login for your BIM 360 team is in fact your email address. So that's the email address that it will notify you of any changes. Over the right hand side of the screen here is the activity, so all activities to any of my projects. Any project that I'm actually belonging to, I'll get activity report down the side here. And these are also links, so if I see somebody's actually uploaded a file, I could, if I want to, just pick on that link and it will go straight to that file. To create a project, really simple. Just pick the button at the top here. I give this a project name, so I shall give this just a project name, and then I can upload an image. Here you get Autodesk provides you with a number of different images that you might want to. Don't really mean an awful lot. It's quite nice to upload your own with a logo or something that gives a more of an idea and a quicker link to that particular project. So once I've created the create project, I can then just drag and drop information through to that project. It's as simple as just dragging from the desktop to this the screen here. So there's our project name. One other thing I want to mention here is if I go to settings, which is over the right hand side here, there are 3 types of projects that you can create. You can create an open project. Now this is open to any member. They don't get access to it, but anybody who has a membership of this hub can see that project, and they can then request access to it. They don't automatically get access to it, even if it's open. They can request. Now a closed project, which generally is pretty much every project, you have to invite members to it. So once you've invited them, then they'll get access to that project, but they won't see the project unless they've been invited. And then we have a secret project, and there you will only invited members can actually see the project at all. I'm just going to cancel that for a second, and then I'm going to go back to here. So there's my my project at the top. You'll see it was created on, and they're sorted, in this case by date. So I'm going to go to this Autodesk project. And you can see here we've got a number of files. We've also got a number of folders, so you can actually have a folder structure. The folder structure itself is entirely up to you. How you actually derive this, you would probably have this sort of structure on your local network drive already, and a lot of people just copy that information through. So whether you have a folder for individual areas or individual companies, that's entirely up to you. I've put a whole load of files out into the top section here, just to give you an idea of the types of files that we can load up. So we've got a DWG file here. It's listed as a CAD file, as is this SketchUp file, which is at the bottom here. We've actually got a SketchUp file, again a CAD file, and we've got a DGN file, so a MicroStation file, all listed as CAD files. Each of these can be viewed perfectly well, as can videos, PDFs, and other files as well. We've also got Revit files. Now there are 2 types of Revit files in here. We actually have a Revit file that would have just been dragged into this area, which is a way that we can use BIM 360 Team. We can actually just use this as an area to store files and view them. But we've also got the Cloud Revit model. Now this is a model that was created using the collaboration for Revit. So this will be a collaborative file that we can work on and synchronize as we go through. You'll also see we've got a Navisworks file here as well that we can view. Now I mentioned inviting members, or members that can be invited. You can see here on the right hand side that we have actually got 3 members to this particular project. If I wanted to invite more, I choose the invite, and then I would actually start typing the name. So when I start typing the name, you'll see that any existing members will actually come up automatically from in here. So if I wanted to just accept that one, I can invite that person. Obviously in this case I'm already a member of this, so we can invite those. We've also got the option here to give them different roles. Now an editor will allow them to upload, to download, to change the file structure as such that we might want to within this project. We've also got the ability to just use viewers. So if you just want somebody to view the information in the project and not allow them to change any information, they can be set to a viewer for that particular project. And then we just send the invitation that they will then have the ability to accept, and they will be then be a member. If those people don't have an Autodesk ID, that doesn't matter, because by accepting they will go through the process and create an Autodesk ID, which will then allow them to get the information through. Generally, if you've already got an Autodesk ID, use that that email address to join any particular projects. Okay. On the right hand side here again we've got activity. So this shows us activity again like we did at the beginning, but this is purely for that particular project. So that anything that's happened within this project, this information gets brought up like so. So going back across to the actual areas that we can have a look at, what we're going to do here is I'm going to actually have a look at one of these files. So let's just have a look. We'll have a look at the M&E file here for this particular project. So this was uploaded by Maria, our M&E engineer, and it is just the M&E stuff. We haven't got any other files in here. But this is the viewer, okay? So this is a similar viewer, whatever file type you're actually using. Obviously, it's a 3D, you get more commands. So this is actually a three-dimensional file that we can look at individually. If it was a drawing sheet, you obviously wouldn't have things like orbit, but you'd still have the things like zoom and so on. So we've got our pan, we've got our zoom. Generally what I would do is I use the mouse, so using the wheel on the mouse just like you would on any other viewing tool. We can then select objects, and you'll see here we've actually got the option to put up the properties. So we can move this properties box around, and it'll give us all the properties that were available to us from the product it was created in this case Revit. Okay, so I'll turn the properties off like so. You'll also see we've actually got our markup tools, so we can actually create some markups in here. So I'm actually going to put a markup so you see the ribbon changes. Really simple, easy to use. I could draw whatever shapes. I'm going to draw a cloud around this sink unit. The color of the line style is adjustable. We can accept whatever line style we want. Let's put an arrow in here, actually point that to it. Not that we really needed that, but then we'll put a piece of text in here as well. So I'll put a little note in here. Okay, so there's my note, like so. Then I can save this markup. Now that markup is now saved. Everyone else will get access to that comment now, and in the activity it will be listed as a comment that's been added. What is quite nice is if it's selected, you get a little picture of the person. I'll go back to there. Let's just come out of there. So you can see the picture, you can see the time and the date that the actual comment was created. And if I wanted to view it, like as you saw there, I just pick and you actually get the actual view of that particular comment, like so. Okay. We've got other bits and pieces we can do. Let's just close this one down, or just go back, and let's have a look at the Revit file, because this file gives me a better option. Really quick to view. Bear in mind this is all in the cloud. So there's my view, and I can do some sections. So I can actually put a section in here. So let's section in the Z plane. By doing that, you get this little controller. I'll zoom in slightly so you can see what's happening, and you can actually pick up on this, and you can just adjust that particular section tool all the way through, like so. So you can get a better idea of what's there. We can also pick on objects and hide them as well. So that's the viewing tool. Now I'm aware that on a webinar it's not quite as smooth when you spin it around, because it's projecting what I see not quite so smoothly, but on my screen it's really smooth to view all this information as well. There's an overview button here. So this particular overview button, this will allow us to get to our 3D view and any drawing sheets. So if you've actually uploaded drawing sheets, we can actually view the drawing sheets within here as well. So we're not just viewing the 3D view, we're actually viewing drawing sheets as well. I'll just wait for your screens to all update. So you can actually see all of those drawing sheets. And again, we can view those even though they're 2D, and we can mark them up so we can actually put comments on that everybody can actually see within that as well. So I'm just going to go back to the 3D view in here. Okay. So what I mentioned before as well is the ability to, I can share this information, but I can also share it live. In other words, I can do a live review. So over the top, at the top here, on the right, we've actually got, we can add some comments for the whole thing. We can actually download the file. Because I'm an editor, I can actually download that file, or I can share. Now with the share option, we can actually share this information to anyone. We don't actually have to invite the person to the project. If I've got if I'm an editor, I can actually share that information with whomever I want. The options here are I copy a link, so I just email that link or send it via Skype for Business or whatever we use, and they will have access to that one file, not the project, that one file. I can also email it direct, so in fact I can email it within here. So I put their email address, a personal message, and they get the same link. I can also embed it. I can actually have a HTML file format here. I can actually determine the size that I want to embed it. So I can embed that onto an intranet, or maybe within an email, and they can see that information live. It's always going to be the latest information as well. So I'm just going to close that link down. And the other option I've got in here is the live review. So if I want to create a live review, what happens is it creates another another web page. I then log in with whatever name or whoever I am. So there's my name. And then what happens is I actually get another link. This is a one-off only link. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to very quickly, I'm actually going to email this to someone else. So this is going to be emailed to Otto, who's our structural engineer for this one, but he's over in Germany. So that's just emailed that across to Otto. Now Otto would actually then just get his emails, and he'll have that link within that email. So bear with me a second. I've just gone to another machine and get that email. And then what would happen is Otto would then get his link. Okay. And what will happen then is you'd actually get his initials or his picture appearing down here, and then we could do a live link. Okay, just bear with me. I'm just copying that link on the other machine, and then what will happen is it'll start up the live review on Otto's machine. Otto just needs to put his name in so we know who's controlling, who's actually pointing at certain objects. And there you see there's Otto's AutoCAD's initials there. And as I turn on his screen, he's actually seeing exactly the same. If then Otto takes control, you see that I'm actually not controlling that, and you see the little dot on the screen at that particular, I just hold it there so you can see the dot. That's exactly where Otto's mouse is, and Otto can actually then highlight different items and then comment on that particular object. And whatever, when you're commenting, they can actually then see that comment straight away, and they can answer that. And then you see there's my the comments coming back across there, like so. So I turn those comments off, and what we'll do is I'll we'll close that down, and then also autos would close down as well. That link then would no longer be used, so nobody can get access to that information again for that design review. What we can also do is we can actually, we've got a shared calendar, so you can actually add things into the calendar. So today I could have put in a design review. And I can put in the times here, and what will happen is this would actually get emailed to everybody in the project. So everybody gets information for this. They can see in this calendar, but they will then also get the invite emailed to them directly, so they can add it to their own calendar back in whatever package they're using for their emails. One other thing I want to show in Team is versioning. So when you upload a new version, within Team you get a version number. So at the moment this particular file we're on is version 5. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go down to version 1, and there's our version 1. So we're looking at the 3D model within the version 1 at this point as well. So I don't know if there's an email for that invite within the calendar I put in. It's come through to my calendar as well. Okay. So this is version 1. And what we can do is it will hold each version. So each version will be held as a Revit file in this case. And what we can do is we can switch between those versions. We can also promote a version back up. So if for instance we didn't really like version 5, it shouldn't have actually happened, we can then promote the previous version as we want. We can also compare versions. When we compare a version, we just choose what we're going to compare between. It'll automatically choose the comparison of the latest releases. Now for this I'm going to actually compare versions 1 and 2. Now this will take a little bit of time to do because it's actually analyzing every single element and it's checking those elements between the versions. So if an item has changed, in other words if it's moved location or changed in any way, it'll be a change. If an item has disappeared, it's been deleted, then it will show as a deletion. If we've got new items, then they will actually show as new items, and we can actually see those 3 areas and we can choose what we want to see. We can also filter out the elements, so we can actually see architectural elements, and there's the filters here now you can see on the screen. Pretty sure everybody can see that's cool. And we can, here's our architectural elements, then we've got our structural elements, and then we've got electrical, we've got our piping, and we've got our mechanical. So we can actually filter those out. So if we only wanted to see a certain area, we can actually filter those as we see. So in this case we've actually had no items added, nothing was removed, but 7 objects have been modified, and they're listed down here. So there's the listed items that we see. At any time we can actually go to any one of those objects, and if I pick on this system panel, what will happen is it will zoom straight to that particular object. Then we get this other little box up here and we can actually switch between the versions. So this is version 2. If I switch to version 1, what will happen is we'll actually get an animated move. Now obviously through this webinar you don't see it animated, but it actually slides the object across, so you can actually see where it used to be in version 1, and then we can go back to version 2 and again version 1, and we can do that for each of the objects that we've had a change on. So to actually see the differences between these different views, it makes it so much easier to see what was actually changed. So even if somebody's not being that great documenting the changes, we can actually see those changes quite nicely. We can actually see, we can filter them down to the areas that we're interested in. So if we're only looking at structural changes because maybe we're an HVAC engineer and we're worried that the structure that we're going to hang from is actually moving, we can actually filter that out and just see that information. So that's BIM 360 Team as such. Now I'm going to go a little bit deeper into Revit in this case to actually see how this cloud Revit model is actually being updated and what's actually creating these versions. Before I do that, but what I would show is if, for instance, we wanted to update any of these others, we can upload a new version. So if we're not using Revit for collaboration for Revit, we could use this upload new version, and then it would create a version 2 for that particular file type. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch to Revit. So this is the same model inside Revit. The way we do this is we actually go to open the actual particular file, and rather than opening it locally, we've actually got an area for BIM 360 Team in our directories here. We choose the project we're actually currently working on, and it will show you the files that we can actually use on this. Obviously I've got this one already open, and there it is again, exactly the same file as we've been looking at. At that point we can then go to the collaboration area. Now if, for instance, we haven't actually collaborated this file yet, we would actually get an option to collaborate. That way we can actually create a central file. The central file, if we chose just to use a local central file, that's fine. But if we wanted to use the cloud and use BIM 360 Team, we can choose the cloud option, and it will actually create a central file in the cloud. We will work on the local file on our system, but when we synchronize, it will actually do a number of things. It will save locally, but it will also download any new information, and then it will synchronize back to the central file. And I'll do that now, because in this case what we've got is we've got a synchronize option here, and it shows us where it's actually going, shows you where the project is and so on. And I can actually add a comment. I always try and get people to put comments in, because if people have seen that a file has been synchronized, they might want to know what's changed, what information has changed. So I'm going to put some just a note here: glazing units changed in entrance. Okay, so that gives people an idea what changes I've actually put in here. Now you'll see here what's happened is it's saved my file locally, it's reloaded the latest information down, and now it's saving to the central file. Now the beauty of this is it's only going to save the bits that have changed. It's not going to put the whole file back up and whole file back down again. And here you can see again, because we've reloaded the latest, okay, what happened there, it was actually then saving locally again. So it does two saves for the local. One before it does any saving. That's obviously just in case we have an interruption in the internet, we've got it saved. What you would normally do is you would normally still save locally as you work and just synchronize when you feel that you want to actually update that central file. The other options we've got here is we've got the reload latest, we've got relinquish all mine. So if we're working with work sets, obviously we have ownership of certain areas, but we can then relinquish that information so other people within our organization can take control of that information. Now, what we've done there is we've actually synchronized. So anybody else working on this with Collaboration for Revit can see any changes. But within BIM 360 Team, there is no new version. We're still on the same version as we were before. And that's because BIM 360 Team is really for the rest of the team to see. Collaboration for Revit allows us to work with our Revit friends as such to see the updated versions. When we are happy, then we want to then publish that so we get a new version. Then you've actually got this manage cloud models. Now because I I'm an admin for a lot of these projects, I need to go to the project that I'm interested in, and here's our file. Now the file itself, it gives us an option to say publish latest. So that in itself is telling me that it is different to what's on the screen. In other words, I've saved or synchronized, so it is a slight difference, like so. So in this case, what I'm going to do is publish the latest. Okay, and that will do that in the background. And it says here we can close this window down, carry on working, and that's now publishing. Now what is quite nice as well is we've got our communicator. I showed this before. So in this case, we've actually got a little communicator window that's separate to our Revit. And in this case, we can see who's actually working on a particular project or who's actually online at this moment. So Maria is actually online. Okay, she's synchronized with the central file yesterday afternoon. I've just synchronized it. Okay, so she'll actually see that I've just synchronized this. You'll also see that AutoCAD is actually offline here, but he's part of our project, so he gets lists in here. We've got other contacts we can bring in and comment and chat with. And here's our chat. So this is my chat with Otto, and you can see here we've actually got some screen captures and notes and so on. So what I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to just have a chat with Maria. She's online at the moment, so I'm just going to right-hand click and say chat with Maria. So you can see here this is the chats I've had with Maria, and she said that I've asked about the lighting plans. She says she'll be ready for this evening, so I just sent her a message. So there's Maria's message. Now because Maria's online, she's typing away while I'm typing on the other machine. So Maria then messages back. So it's live. You can see that it's quick, and the beauty is we can actually, like I said, send images. We can actually send files. So if, for instance, we had a PDF that we wanted to send them that we didn't want to put into the project information, we can maybe attach it, and we can also export the chat history. And this is quite handy if you want to keep a trace of what people are saying, the imagery and so on. We can actually save that information, export that chat history. In this case, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to send a very quick, let's have another view, like so. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to send a quick screen capture just to show you how easy that is. So there's my window. I'll just freeze it there for a second so you can all get a screen update. You then get an option to cancel or capture. Capture will automatically put it in here, and then I can also add a note for that particular capture. So there's my little note, and Maria will then change and give me an answer, hopefully. And then you see straight away that information comes through. Along with the chat, we've actually got a timeline. So for the timeline for any synchronization changes, you'll actually see here is where we can actually see when the synchronization appeared and who actually did that. And this is where I was saying to you about the comments. Always good to have some sort of comment, which I didn't do yesterday, but you get the general idea. So the beauty is whenever we're synchronizing this information through, you can actually see as we're working on the project, you can see how the information goes. Now I obviously I synchronize this, and I also change the file. I uploaded a new file and projected, and you can see now, if I go to this project, you'll see it now, we can actually see we're on version 6 now. Okay, so there's our version 6, like so, and these are the different views that we can see. So it takes a little while for all the views to actually become viewable, but it gives you a good idea. And if I wanted to see those sheets here, I can see those, so it's preparing particular views. We've got 20 view different drawing sheets here, so it's going to take a little while to actually see each of those. But if I wanted to see a particular file, if it wasn't available, it would make that viewable straight away. So there's our view as such within here. So that's a very sort of brief overview of BIM 360 team, and also collaboration for Revit. I'll open up now to if there's any questions. I'll just give you one view, just to give you an overview of what this is there for. I just see if there's any questions. So there's no questions at this point. Has anybody got any questions? You've also got a chat option there as well. You can chat. Well, what we'll do is we'll finish the webinar there. If you've got any questions, or if you wish to trial BIM 360 team, or in fact collaboration for Revit, which will give you the team, you can do so. You can get a number of days. I think it varies between 30 and 60 days depending on the products, but you get an ability to trial the system out. You get one project in a trial, but you can invite as many people as you like to it, and you can then work on that project live. And if you then wanted to go ahead and purchase, you can make your trial project a full project. So that's really simple to do. So all it remains me to do is thank you all for attending. And as I said, this has been recorded, so if you needed anybody else to see the webinar again, then please feel free to contact your reseller, and we'll get you a link to the recording. Thank you very much, and have a good afternoon.